Tortilla and welcome back for another tasty treat. This week I happen to have just like a little bit of a cold. I don't know if you can tell, but it's definitely not COVID, it's just a plain old common cold. So I have a bit of a cheat recipe for you this week for when you're feeling a bit bleh and you don't want to put as much effort into what you're cooking because you have no energy, but you still want a slap-up meal. Now this recipe is for a lamb and potato curry that my grandma used to make all the time. She passed the recipe down to my mum and my aunties, and then they have passed it down to me. So it's now my turn to share this curry recipe with you guys. Let's get started. So once again, it's that time of year where we're getting out the big orange pan to cook our delicious meals in. So in here, I've got a little bit of cooking oil, and I'm going to let that get nice and hot. So when your oil in your pan is nice and hot, here I've got 2 boned and rolled lamb shoulders of lamb that I have cubed into even-sized pieces, and I'm going to fry this off in hot oil until it's golden brown. So frying off the lamb first will ensure that the fat on the lamb is rendered and that it goes nice and tender in the curry when it's finished. And the flavours are just beautiful, honestly. You want to keep that fat on that lamb. At this point you want to add some salt and pepper to your lamb. And once your lamb is browned all over and you've rendered the fat, we're going to drain the lamb of all the excess fat and return the pan back to the heat. So now that my lamb is fully brown all over, this is just me draining the lamb of any excess fat and returning the pan to the heat. So now that you've drained your lamb and you've returned your pan to the heat, this is where the fun begins. You're going to add a drop more oil and get your pan nice and hot again. And here I've had the absolute joy of chopping 3 large onions, roughly chopped, ready to throw in my pan and fry. And as our onions are frying away nicely, we're going to add 4 large cloves of chopped garlic. As your onions and garlic are gently softening in the pan over there, what you can do is grab yourself 2 large white potatoes, peel them and cube them into equal-sized cubes, and then we're going to put them in cold salted water and parboil them. So you want them soft but not mash, parboiled. With the potatoes in this curry, you can technically boil them in the curry, but it's a lot more difficult to keep an eye on them in the curry, so I find it easier if I parboil them separately from the curry and then add them to the curry later on. It's up to you what you do, especially if you're feeling rough like I am. It's just a little tip. My onions and garlic are really nicely soft now and they're a little bit glossy. So here I have 1 tablespoon of hot curry powder. I'm just going to pour that in and coat the onions and garlic. So you know how I said that this is a cheat curry recipe? Well, here comes the cheat part. You need 2 tablespoons of Madras curry paste. Now, I do have a recipe for a legitimate Madras curry paste, but I'm not feeling very well, as I've said before, and this just makes things so much easier. And if you can find a Madras curry paste that works for you, honestly, is there really any point? I mean, yes, I know, I always say, make your ingredients from scratch because it's better, but when you're feeling like you're not going to get any better, or you haven't got time, then they're convenient, I understand. But anyway, as always, the list of ingredients will be in the description below. And if you do want my recipe for the proper curry paste to make your own, then go ahead, send me a message, leave me a comment, and I will give that recipe to you. And once you've stirred the curry powder and the Madras paste into your onions and garlic, you will see that it's starting to stick slightly on the bottom, but that's okay. We're going to lift that up now with 200 millilitres of water. Pour that in, and then give it a good stir, getting rid of all the stick on the bottom of the pan. And once you've removed all of that stuff from the bottom of the pan, and it's formed this beautiful curry paste, we're going to add our lamb back to the pan. Make sure that's fully coated in all of this curry deliciousness. And once your lamb's in and it's fully coated in all that deliciousness, we're going to go ahead and add 1 can of chopped tinned tomatoes. And then once that's all mixed in thoroughly, we're going to add 1 dessert spoon of caster sugar. And then gently, I'm going to bring the curry to a boil. And once it's boiling, I'm going to move it over to the smaller ring and put it on a lower heat. Give it a quick stir, like so. Then I'm going to half add the lid so that there's a gap there for the steam to escape. And I'm going to let it simmer for about an hour to an hour and a half, where I'm going to keep checking on it, giving it a stir and checking the lamb to see if it's nice and tender. Once the lamb is nice and tender, then your curry is done. And by tender I mean the lamb needs to be falling apart, even with a touch of a spoon. And with the potatoes here, they're about to boil, so once they are parboiled and I can just gently press a spoon through them, I will drain them and cool them down, and then I'll add them to the curry just before I serve it, so that they warm through the curry when I reheat the curry. And once your curry is complete, my advice is to let it cool down and actually wait until the next day to eat it, because all of the spices have had a chance to mature overnight, and that makes the curry taste its best. Honestly, you can't fault it. So there we go, I've drained my potatoes and I'm just going to leave them to the side until the curry is almost ready. And I have a really blocked nose, but the smell of this curry is just pushing through my sinuses, and oh, it smells amazing. You have to try it. If you're worried about the liquid in your curry reducing too far, don't worry, you can always add another can of chopped in tomatoes and a splash of water. My lamb is deliciously tender now, so I'm going to add my parboiled potatoes, and then I'm going to let this simmer for around 5 minutes, just so that the starch activates from the potatoes and makes the curry just a tad thicker. And then I'm going to turn it off and leave the lid on it until tomorrow, where I will enjoy my dinner tomorrow. All being well, hopefully I can taste this tomorrow. I can just about smell it, but you guys are going to have to cook it for yourselves to find out. So thank you for watching this episode of Leah Tortilla. I hope you've enjoyed this tasty treat. And if any of you have actually tried any of my recipes, I'd love to hear how they went and what you thought of them. And don't forget to give this video a share, give this video a like, and leave me a comment. And if you really like what I do, then subscribe to my channel for more tasty treats, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!